And we'll get this slideshow going. So, good afternoon, good day to everybody here on NAFAC. Not quite sure. I know that this is the West Coast brief, so you might be in a different time zone than myself. I'm over here in Port Hueneme, California at Naval Facilities Institute. My name is Robert Mantanona. I'm the program manager for NAFAC Leadership Development Programs. Here at NFI, I manage the centralized programs that are centric to NAFAC, like the Ldp, the Leadership Development Program, and the Aldp, the Aspiring Leadership Development Program, as well as I help facilitate for the DoD and DON programs that we have. So today we have a bit of a treat. We do have, of course, my brief, and I'm sure everybody's excited to see some PowerPoint slides, but the best part of the brief is we have some of our graduates from some of these various programs, and they're going to give you a little bit of the insight of what their experience was in the program, how it benefited them, some of the takeaways they got, that type of stuff. More, probably the more meat and potatoes of these programs than my little overview will touch. So, as you know, this is the application period. It is 28 March through 27 May 2022. That is the current application period. I'm sure your BD17 or your training reps have socialized that to you. If in any of these programs that you see that are interested in, please, at the end of this, ask any questions if I don't touch on it. So we will go on to the next slide. Obviously, this is based off the NAVFAC commander's guidance. This is going to be strengthening and broadening our leadership development. This is based off the line of effort of strengthening our SysCom team and finding these non-technical competencies that we're going to enhance. Obviously, our commander's guidance, the Chief Admiral Korka, is he's very, very high on this, which is to fill our team with these highly qualified and motivated people. And he wants to invest in you. All of our leadership is looking to invest in you. So please definitely look at these programs because this is an investment in you, and if as well as an enhancement of yourself and the competencies and where you want to go, how you're going to get there, what type of personal or professional goals that you've set for yourself. So we're going to kind of briefly go over that. Let's go over to the overview and obviously the programs that are available throughout your career. I think I saw the last time I checked, I think there was about almost 80 participants. I can't see how many right now, but I know that we have quite a few joining and have accepted the invite. But you're all in different places and where you want to go and what your aspiration is, and no one size fits all is kind of my point to this whole slide, this overview. So definitely kind of, throughout this presentation, kind of think of what type of program, where you're at currently, where you want to go, what you're trying to do, and what program aligns with that vision for yourself. We conduct an annual announcement of all leadership programs around the same time period. The application period's pretty cyclical. So every March, the application period starts for the next FY, and we announce these programs. And we would like to see more and more of your names pop up and apply for these programs and enhance yourself in your career. There are participants where the selection program for the selection cycle for this year, we select for this year for FY23. So all this information will be for FY23. The FY22 folks are already going through programs currently. I think ALDP and LDP have already kicked off. We had, I think, 3 selected for some of our upper level programs, and I'm still hoping that folks are still going to get selected in some of these DoD, DON programs. But all the NAFAC commands participate in this program announcement, and this is an investment upon yourself. So we'll move on to who is eligible to apply. And these are some of the minimum these are the minimum eligibility requirements and the criteria. And I get a lot of questions every year about the same thing. And permanent, can contractors, can some of our other folks that are technically tied to NAVFAC, are they eligible? Unfortunately, contractors are not eligible. Some of our foreign folks, like up in Far East and you're absent, some of our foreign contractors or foreign civilians, they're not eligible as well. So this is basically the minimum eligibility. You need to be a permanent or career conditional full-time NAVFAC, not on a time-limited appointment, and completed at least the first year probationary period. You need to be a NAVFAC employee for the past 12 months. Meet program grade level eligibility requirements on a permanent basis. Completed the supervisor probationary period if applicable. Compliant with mandatory certification and training requirements, and have and maintain a performance rating record of acceptable or equivalent. Have a supervisory approved individual development plan, and other eligibility requirements may apply to certain programs. And if you have any of those questions, please refer to your local BD17, or you can reach out to me and I will get you that answer. One important thing to consider: all eligibility criteria must be met by the closing date of the application. So if you are, I think, 10 months in as a NAVFAC employee, and it's or if you were 10 months in at March, as long as you meet the eligibility requirement of being an employee for the past 12 months, you would meet the cutoff. So again, all eligibility criteria must be met by the closing date of the application. We'll move on to the Continuum of Leadership Programs. This is a visualization right here of all the various leadership programs that NAVFAC participates in. And obviously you can see the various segments of the workforce. You got your entry level, your journeyman, and your expert level. It kind of gives you kind of a visualization of what type of programs, whether they're DoD, DON, a NAVFAC program, or a government and commercial. Also, whether or not, what segment of the workforce that it is targeted for. That's one visualization. And a little bit more aesthetically pleasing one would be this next slide. And this is a little bit of, I think it's a little bit of more organized visualization, and it kind of gives you all the DoD, DON programs, all our full-time programs, all of the NAVFAC-centric programs, and our NAVFAC training. It gives you a little bit of a breakdown and all these various opportunities for you to get this non-technical training to assist you in your career. On the far right, on the top right, there is the NAVFACNavy.mil CCRC page that I referenced earlier. Please, if you have not visited it, please do. There are quite a few resources for you available, as well as this recording will be there. I believe there's webinars from the Supervisor Academy available there as well. Touches a lot of various competencies and ways that you can enhance yourself. Let me see. We were going to go to the next one. Next slide here. And which program is right for you? And this is kind of the time that you need to have, after this this brief, and after maybe you call it a day and you go home, really think about it. Think about what you're trying to do professionally, personally, what your time looks like, what your workload looks like, where you're at technically, because this will help guide you in making the decision and finding the right program for you. As I said, one size does not fit all. That's why we have all these various programs that touch different and target different segments of our workforce. We have some programs that are more for our journeyman level, which is our largest segment of our workforce. That'll be something, maybe that is where you're at and where you're trying to, really hone your abilities and your non-technical competencies. There are those programs that are for more of our expert folks. Some are a little bit more senior. What I really urge you to do is, after you've kind of thought about what you're trying to do for your professional development, what you're trying to do for your personal development, definitely have this conversation with your supervisor. We're in the IDP season. We're in the individual development program, our personal development season. So kind of sit down and try to kind of map that out. Like, hey, for FY23, or I want to apply for the Ldp level 1. I'm a non-supervisor, and I want to further my leadership ability. I feel very technically proficient because, as this slide says, your technical proficiency is your first priority. But recognize, hey, I'm technically proficient. I want to, really stretch myself. I really want to, uh, rotate and see a little bit of the various pieces of NAVFAC and how NAVFAC operates, how funding is, how money is moved, how's it expended, how's it executed, or maybe you're you don't have an understanding of the PW side or your public works, and you want to go see and rotate and see your public works and see what maybe a PWD, and you do a rotation. But kind of have that discussion with your supervisor. Get that on your IDP. Look at the various programs. Find the one that matches where you are and where you want to go. I'm sure I haven't touched on this yet, but you most likely, your training representative for your local command has most likely sent you the ECA, the Employee Competency Assessment, and and if you haven't done so, the link is right there. Please do go there. You will do it. It'll kind of be a recognizing of your strengths and weaknesses, where you're at. Your supervisor will get an email, and they can give you an objective idea of where you're at. And then you can kind of figure out, well, I'm really good at this, or I'm really not so great at this. And you can kind of strategize with your supervisor, whether you want to lean on those strengths and utilize and leverage that in a different way, or you want to shore up a weakness, and maybe one of these programs will fit to do one of those things for you. So definitely, as the second check mark, discuss your career goals and developmental needs with your supervisor. Be open to the constructive feedback. I really urge you to have that conversation and have some uncomfortable conversations. They might not tell you something that you want to hear, but it will be something that you need to hear. So definitely be open to the constructive feedback. Do not take it personal. Just look at it as an opportunity, because it is an opportunity for you to get better. Review your leadership program descriptions and requirements, and consider that time and potential travel commitments. Definitely understand where your workload is, where your life load is, whether or not maybe you have kids or extended family, and try to find that right balance. And once you've figured out, maybe hey, I can do this, I have the support of my family, I have the support of command, definitely apply. So we'll move over to the next slide. And where can I learn more about available leadership programs? I believe I touched on this, which was the CCRC page. This is the landing page for that. This is the top portion, has quick brief introduction. The link is there on the bottom. Definitely please visit there, take a look at what we have. There's a ton of resources there. Let me move on to the next, and we're going to kind of touch on some of the centralized programs now. So the two NAVFAC leadership programs that are centralized, these are NAVFAC centric, they're NAVFAC specific, and they're NAVFAC developed, are the Aspiring Leader Development Program, the ALDP, and the Leadership Development Program. And those two programs kind of cover from pretty much our journeyman to our expert. So the Aspiring Leader Development Program is open to GS7s and 12s. that touches quite a big of our segment. This is, that covers that segment. And the leadership development program, it's open based on the level, GS-12s to GS-15s. The leadership development program has 3 levels. You have your level 1, which is our GS-12, 12s and 13s that are non-supervisors. Our GS-12s, level 2 is GS-12s and 13s supervisors. And our level 3s are our GS-14s and 15s. And obviously it's to address all the various segments that we have in, encompassing from, like I said, journeyman to experts. And we're seeking highly motivated and self-directed employees who have that potential to shape NAVFAC's future. These are more NAVFAC specific. I urge you to take a look at both of them. I'm sure you've fallen, if you've taken the ALDP, and I've seen your name before and you went through and you're a graduate, then definitely maybe look at the LDP. If you're eligible for maybe level 1, 2, or 3, depending on where you're at. So we'll move on to the next slide, which is a little bit more of the ALDP. This is a more structured program. It's pretty much 3 weeks over the span of 6 months, excuse me. It's core classroom curriculum supports NAVFAC workforce development. It's a corporate-wide initiative, as the LDP is as well. It provides opportunities to develop our leadership competencies earlier, to kind of build your foundation so that when you start applying for some of these other programs, and you're a little further down in your career, these aren't new concepts. You're strengthening, you're sharpening what you've already started developing. And also it provides you a baseline. Let's go to the program overview. I believe I touched on this. It's the duration, which is 6 months. Usually the cadre size is 25. Usually, depending on how many applicants, how much interest has been driven, we usually run 2 to 4 cadres. So this year, unfortunately, we didn't have quite as much as demand. Prior to that, we had 4 cadres, so we had 100 ALDP graduates. Hopefully, we have some ALDP graduates with us today, and they're looking to maybe look at another program. Some of their basic eligibility requirements, GS7 through 12. I didn't touch on the wage grade, but also the wage grades, the equivalents, the WD1 through WD10, the WG7 through WG15, the WL5 through WL13, and the WS1 through WS12. I'm also going to touch on some of the additional requirements for this program. Obviously, you need to complete at least the first year probationary period and not on time-limited appointment, be a NAVFAC employee for the past 12 months. This one is important. Agree and sign a continued service agreement. Obviously, we are investing in you. That if you take this training, you're essentially taking a seat from somebody else. We're obviously putting that investment in you. There is I think it's 6 months obligation to serve in NAVFAC after you complete. Additionally, you have attend all 3 one-week training sessions and have and maintain a performance rating of acceptable or equivalent. One other note, I think I get this every year. Graduates of entry-level programs are not eligible to apply for the ALDP until 1 year after graduation, unfortunately. So we'll move on to the ALDP assessments and experiential learning. This is a little bit of what the ALDP does. With the ALDP, you do an MBTI, you do, leadership effectiveness inventory. There's a lot of various definitely looking within yourself, some of the competencies that you have, some of the competencies. You're essentially doing a 360. You'll be doing a 360 assessment, which will have yourself look at yourself and where you're at with your competencies. You'll have your supervisor, and then also you'll have some of your colleagues kind of tell you where you're at based off what they've seen from you and your work ethic. Um, that's just a list of some of the various assessments. It's a lot of bang for your buck. I cannot say enough about the program. If you are considering a leadership program and you're in this workforce segment of GS 7 through 12 or any of the wage grades that are equivalents, please definitely consider this program. It also has the experiential learning activities, attending presentations, by your local command leaders. I schedule leadership, some of our BDs, some of our senior folks to come speak for you and kind of give you insight in their leadership journeys. You obviously watch videos, read books. If there is travel involved, depending on where we are as a SysCom, depending on regions and COVID restrictions, you'll be traveling for that 1 week or for each of the 3 weeks. Let's move on to a little bit of the curriculum and training.
Hey, Rob, I'm sorry to
Yes.
interrupt. This is Albert. There's a question in the chat. Just wanted to call your attention to it.
Yes, if you could call that name for me.
Oh, I can read it out, actually. The question was in regards to the LDP. Does one have to be in the particular grade to do a particular leadership program? For example, can you do LDP level 1 if you are GS9 after you've completed the ALDP?
No, unfortunately, those grade requirements for the LDP are hard. They are set. So if you have done the ALDP as a GS9, once you are, hopefully you are going to continue to further yourself in your career, hopefully get to a level of being a GS12, that's when you would be eligible for the LDP. Do I have any follow-on on that?
That's all that's in the chat. Thanks, Rob.
Not a problem. So the ALDP classroom curriculum and training, we have, obviously there's 3 weeks, as I mentioned before. Each week is focused on a different, theme. Week 1 would be the holistic knowing yourself and seek improvement. So it's very introspective on that week. It'll kind of make you aware of what type of personality you have. If you are not very introspective and look at yourself, maybe some of the leadership styles that you are maybe that you have preference to, and then maybe some exercises to maybe pick some of the more effective and efficient leadership styles. Week 2, that'll be teaming, and it's coming together as a team to achieve a common goal. Obviously, you're a NAVFAC, so most likely you work with the team. This is kind of a little bit more of learning how to work in a team to achieve a common goal using various tools and assessments. A lot of it will be focused on some of the leadership aspects, maybe leading to the side, because leadership is not always just going down. It's to the side, to your colleagues. You're leading up, you're leading your manager, helping to manage your manager sometimes. That's something to keep in mind as well. Week 3, transformation. Utilizing these assessments, your results to identify strategies, encourage your team building, enhance. It's a culmination of the previous 2 weeks, and there will be a project that you'll finish up, a capstone that you'll be doing, and it's very, very good and very exciting. And I usually attend for that, and I hope to see some of you there. And that is the 3 weeks for the ALDP. So let's go over to FY23 Cadre dates. We have the Cadre dates here. We'll have an East Coast and West Coast Cadre. The start date would be 20th of March, 2023. West Coast Cadre will be 03 April to 2023. We might have an additional cadres based off of demand signal, but these are the two that we already have scheduled. Okay, so we'll move forward. This is touching on what the application package should have, and when you turn it into your local BD17. We'll go to the next slide, to the NAVFAC Leadership Development Program. This is
Rob,
yes.
one more question in the chat. It's regarding ALDP.
Yes, sir.
The question is, I work remotely. Could I complete ALDP experiential learning activities, parentheses, shadowing, rotations, the like, at a region or FEC office other than my own, or would I need to travel back to do those things?
Travel back? Yes, actually, ALDP you'll be able to do within your command usually. Albert,
there was additional. Set for context, I work for NAVFAC PAC, but live in the mainland.
Gotcha. You know, for different circumstances, we'll definitely address that. For the ALDP, most of the stuff, if you have something local to you, maybe you're remote, and we'll address that case by case. Most of that will be, if not, if we can't have you do some of those experiential learning in person, as we've seen, NAVFAC has learned to pivot, and we've adjusted fire. We've done virtual training as well, and we can kind of address that on a case-by-case basis. Any follow-on on that?
Nope, that's it.
Oh, okay, perfect. So the NAVFAC LDP, one of NAVFAC's premier leadership development programs. This is kind of our flagship for NAVFAC at this point. This is, like I said, it is our GS12 and 13 non-supervisors to GS14, 15th. So you got your journeyman all the way to your expert level. It includes 3 level programs. I'll go to the next one to kind of give you that visualization. You have your level 1s, your level 2, and your level 3. One point of interest, our level 1s, that is a 1-year program. And the level 2-year program, the 2-year programs will be the level 2 and level 3, our GS12s and 13 supervisors, and our GS14s and GS15s. One other thing I think it touches on it here is our WS12, our wage grade also for all levels are accepted. Obviously, they need to be the equivalents of each of GS12 or 13 non-supervisors. So our equivalents for GS12 and 13s for level 1s, our equivalents for GS12 and 13s supervisors like the WS12, and if we have any equivalents for the GS14 and GS15. Each level has a different objective. Level 1s is to develop your knowledge of NAVFAC business operations and supervisory experience. Level 2s is to the adoption and the transfer of business practices, develop professional network across NAVFAC. Level 3 is to develop your HQ awareness, your headquarters awareness, your corporate business operations, or management issues, management expertise outside of your immediate career field or business line. All program levels focus on your corporate perspective, your leadership competencies, mentoring, and personal assessment. All 3 levels will be doing a 360 assessment. All 3 levels will have very similar requirements, but based off, it will be more skewed to your level. We'll go over to the next slide, which will kind of go in depth in the structured plans. This will be the structured training plans, rotational assignments. You'll have specific development project, personal assessment and career planning, education and training, and a corporate perspective. I'm going to move forward. Your Ldp application. The elements of the package will include the self-nomination form, your resume, your recommendation, your community manager and supervisor endorsement. DWIA transcript if you are DWIA coded, and then also follow application instructions carefully. Use only the current 2023 Ldp application form. A couple things: late, incomplete, or oversized applications will not be considered. 10-point font or larger, and packages cannot exceed 10 single-sided pages. The DWIA transcript will be separate. It is not counted against you. Then we are at the last slide. The single biggest way to impact an organization is to focus on our leadership development. There is almost no limit to the potential of an organization that recruits good people, raises them up as leaders, and continually develops them. John Maxwell. So I am going to call on our speakers. So we have various speakers from some of our other programs.
Rob, sorry,
yes.
just one thing. There was somebody who raised their hand.
Oh, yes.
But they may have.
Did I miss you?
Oh.
Let me see. Rafael
Yes.
Enriquez from Southwest, a recent Ldp graduate, and as well as an ALDP graduate.
Correct. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I had a quick question that was early on in the chat about the PowerPoint slides that you're going through. Are those available somewhere to download?
Yes, they are. They are I've dropped it in the chat. It should be on the very top. If you, for whatever reason, cannot download it, please send me an email and I will forward that to you.
Will do. Thank you, sir.
Not a problem. I had one other question. Oh, nope. Okay. So I wanted to do some of our folks that have graduated. Our first speaker will be Mr. Tom Barstow, the business director at Midland. Some of you might be familiar with him, some of you might not. But if you are, because I know Tom is well known throughout our enterprise, he's going to talk a little bit about Federal Executive Institute and actually Navy Senior Leader Seminar as well, and Bridging the Gap.
Okay, hey, thanks, Rob. And can you hear me still?
Yes, sir, I can. Okay,
very good. So I've been dropped a couple of times on this. So if I drop, I am actually able to get back in pretty quickly. So forgive me if I fade out. So yeah, as Rob said, I'm the business director at Midland in Norfolk, Virginia, and I'm a civil engineer by trade. But I have always been fascinated by leadership and group dynamics. So so I'm absolutely thrilled to work with Rob and Roz and the entire BD17 community, because this is just absolutely great stuff. And NAVFAC as an organization to offer this is pretty amazing to do that. So I've graduated from Bridging the Gap, Federal Executive Institute, and the Navy Senior Leader Seminar. And so I would recommend each of them, and for different reasons. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them in turn. I'm going to say from the least intense to the most intense. Okay, so if you follow with me on that one. So the first one is Bridging the Gap. And I would probably paraphrase this is, so you want to be an SES. And so the target audience is Navy GS 14s and 15s. It is, we had about 80 people in our cadre, and that is from all across Navy. So had a half dozen or so from NAVFAC, and then a lot from NAVAIR, NAVC, and the others. We were placed in groups of 8 or 10, I can't remember. The program was spread out over 12 months, I believe. And if you were in the DC metro area, it was virtually all in person. If you were outside DC metro, then it was more of a hybrid environment where you did monthly calls and discussions. Back then it was over the phone. I guess now it would be a Teams type thing. And the curriculum was a mix of general leadership training and then very practical and tactical advice on how to become an SES. So if you're a GS-14 or a GS-15, both are eligible to become SESers, okay? And so a lot of it was focused on executive core qualifications through OPM. There are 5 elements that are really critical. And so you learned how to tell stories in that way, write your resume, interview, all with an SES position in the background and as the end goal. So anyway, it had some focus on self-awareness, but a lot of it was more practical. There was a shadowing element. I think it was 40 hours for an SES that you had to shadow. If you're in the DC metro area, a lot easier to find an SES than maybe Norfolk or San Diego. There was a project involved, so you had a little bit of group working on that. So I would say generally a pretty good thing. But it was really focused on you better want to be an SES. Otherwise, a lot of the curriculum may be a little bit lost on you on that one. So that's a little bit about bridging the gap. Okay, and I'll take questions at the end just so I can get through some of these things. Okay, the next one I'll talk about is the Navy Senior Leader Seminar. This is a 2-week and back to in-person session in Monterey, California at the Naval Postgraduate School. The target audience for this, it's a mixture of military and civilian. So the bridging the gap was all civilian, okay, no military, no active duty on that. But the Navy Senior Leader Seminar had a mix of Navy 06s and Command Master Chiefs, along with civilian GS-15s. And I think this is offered kind of in 2 different ways. So NAVFAC has a NAVFAC only program, which has the NAVFAC officers and NAVFAC civilians. I was in an all Navy. So we had, I think, I may have been the only one, I think, from NAVFAC in the class of about 40 people in that one. Now, this had a lot more focus on a combination of personal development and professional development. And when I say the personal development, I'll say both the physical and the mental side of things. So kind of building you up as an all-around person. The bridging the gap was strictly focused more on the professional side. Now, the professional aspect of the Navy Senior Leader Seminar, it was a lot of tactical, a lot of big Navy. Hey, what's the strategy? How do you do this? A lot of ethics that were brought into the program. So probably a 50-50 balance between personal and professional development. Had fantastic speakers, absolutely top notch, and the facilities at Navy Postgraduate School, absolutely wonderful. It was a pretty intense class, and we started with a mandatory exercise program at 6 in the morning, and we usually finished class by about 5 p.m. And then we did have a Saturday session. So you got Sunday off. There was the 1 day in the 2-week period to do that. So a lot of camaraderie and good networking within that program. So that was 2 weeks on that one. Okay. Now let me build to the Federal Executive Institute. Okay. So the Federal Executive Institute is actually a place. It is an OPM training facility in Charlottesville, Virginia, just down the street from the University of Virginia. And the course that I think we refer to in our program here is Leadership for a Democratic Society. Okay. Now, this is a 4-week residential program. Okay. And so you will be in Charlottesville for a full month. And I live in Virginia Beach, so I came home, I think, 1 weekend. But otherwise, you're up there because you do have class on the weekends. This was really intense. And so it's an all civilian audience, so no military in there because it covers all of the federal workforce. I think there were 2 people or 3 of us from the Navy that were in the program. I think FEI and OPM have now opened it up to private sector because I think it's a bit on the pricey side. So I think they're looking at trying to get some private sector clients as well on that one. But the audience was GS-15 predominantly. About 90% of the class was GS-15 and about 10% were new SESers. Okay. And so we had a group of, I think there were 66 of us, and they broke us into teams of 8 or 9 people. So the Bridging the Gap had some teams as well, but this was a lot more intense because you did everything kind of with your team. You ate with them, you exercised with them, you went to the program with them, sat with them. It was a long day. So we started out again with probably a 6 a.m. exercise program that lasted for an hour. Got breakfast, and then the classroom work started around 8 o'clock, and that usually went till about 6 p.m. at night. And so It was a long day for that. And so we did have one full weekend that we were there in Charlottesville. And you had a pretty set curriculum that focused on democracy, Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, how it all works in. But again, you had probably a 50-50 split between improving yourself, self-awareness, your personal fitness, nutrition, mental health. So the first day, I think we started out with a physical fitness test, and they had us do push-ups and flexibility, and they did a blood test on us, and so you went from there on terms of what developed your program for exercise and nutrition and everything like that. Um, we also had the ability to kind of go take various electives. And so I went in 2014, and back then we had a speaker. He was a native Russian, and he was a professor at a university in Moscow, and he was talking about the Russian invasion of Crimea. And so, that resonates today. So I still remember that discussion. Took a class on negotiations. I think that was 4 hours. And then I took a class on improv. And you go, improv, like, comedy. And so what the idea is on that is to become flexible and positive and things like that. And so you have these really cool opportunities. They had field trips. They want you to get out in town, visit UVA, University of Virginia, Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's place. Went a couple of times to James Monroe's birthplace and his house to get out and kind of do various classes at the different things there. I will tell you that it is very emotional in terms of they kind of bring you down to basic. I've never been to a boot camp, but I kind of have the same thought. Is you get into a program and they look at you and go, okay, hey, where do we need to go and build you up? And so there are a lot of tiers amongst the participants in there. You have a lot of team exercises, a lot of sharing. As I'm an extrovert and I loved it, I couldn't wait for more. I know that the introverts, and that was the majority of the population there, they were simply exhausted because there is so much going on with that one. But the self-awareness that you get from that is just incredible. I would say, talking to a friend of mine, Dave Kerfman, chief engineer now for NAVFAC, he talked about it as a life-changing experience when he went through it. I will say it's probably more life-affirming for me. I look back on my notes 8 years later, and I still refer to them and still have contacts with my team members and everything like that. So it was probably the ultimate training experience that we could wish for here. So anyway, those are the three groups, three programs that I've graduated from, and happy to take any questions. Or Rob, I will wait to the end. Over.
Over. And do I have any questions for Bridging the Gap and SLS or FEI? Anybody? Oh, we got Albert Pasqua.
Hey, Mr. Barstow, real quick question. So, he had mentioned about some of these programs and some of the commitments that you had to make time-wise. How did you go about, balancing the workload, especially, at your level?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of requirements of you. So how did you balance that, when you had these commitments for these programs?
Well, I will say that, and when you look at the calendar and the days and everything, a lot of that is, kind of off the normal clock time of things. And so I started out private sector, and my training experiences were in the evenings. And so I'm kind of used to having a little bit of, skin in the game in terms of my own devotion to it. But it's a matter of time management. Now, one of the things that, I couldn't really do time management wise to kind of do FEI, I'm gone for physically 1 month. And so I was Deputy Operations Officer at the time at NAVFAC Atlantic. And one of the things I was able to do was put someone in charge, and it gave them a great opportunity to kind of run the show for a full month. And I did not check in, didn't do that. So for both the NSLS and the FEI, they do want you to unplug from your day to day. And so it's just a matter of like trusting a lot of the people that you work with to do some of those things and give them the opportunity as well. And then, like I said, I can't lie, there is some time on your own that you're working beyond the 40 hours. Over.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Mr. Barstow? We got Mr. Peter Radilla. He He was just selected for our FY22 Bridging the Gap.
Oh,
Probably what the
fantastic.
question is.
Congratulations.
Well, hey, thank you. Yeah, I don't actually have a question. I was just going to pile on with what Tom was saying. I'm also a FEI and a NCLS grad, and my recommendation, I just gave this to one of my personnel that I hope is applying for the leadership development program, is exactly what Tom just said, is you have to unplug and put your 100% commitment into those programs. And you need your leadership buy-in, so they will support you to do that. And as Tom said, hey, you give another person opportunity to grow as well while you're gone. So I think that's really important. I think if you're juggling, especially if you're at NCLS or especially FEI, if you're trying to do your other job and that, you're not going to get the benefit out of it that we're paying for. Over.
Thanks, Peter. Great comment. Any other comments or questions for Tom? Oh, we got Sharon Van Bell from Southwest.
Hi, I am a bargaining unit employee, and so I'm just wondering how that works when it comes to the extra work that would be required outside of regular work hours. Did anyone know how to answer that one?
I'll turn that one over to Rob. How's that?
Repeat that one more time. I'm so sorry, Sharon.
Oh, no problem. So I am a bargaining unit employee. So overtime has to be approved by my supervisor. Maybe that's the answer. But so work that has to be done in addition or outside of, to get the projects done and what have you. Do you know how that works? Because I know that for the Emerging Leader Program, which I oversee, overtime is not provided in allowed.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, and we cannot, accept, time for free. I mean, we have to pay people for the amount of time that they are doing things like that. As a manager, I've got a little bit of a different, it's a different situation for us. For the bargaining unit employees, you're absolutely correct. It becomes, a little bit more difficult. And my suggestion is, work with your supervisor on terms of deadlines and, what you can do on that one. There's no quick answer. And I will say too, because I don't want to take up everyone's time, with my 3 programs. Rob has my contact information. If anyone has any additional questions, I'd be happy to speak with you, email you, or anything like that if we get cut short on time. So back to you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, to that, yes, it's a very nuanced. Yeah, we can. I'm not going to make a blanket statement of us paying for that or approving that. It's very nuanced, and it will most likely that'll be something that you have to kind of have that discussion with your supervisor, how to balance that workload. But yes. Not a great answer, but that's kind of the answer it is. Any other questions for Tom? No? Okay. Again, if you have any further questions and you would like to get in touch with Mr. Barstow, please reach out to me and I can provide that and we'll kind of facilitate that. Tom, thank you so much for your time and sharing your experience with those 3 programs. We're going to move on to our next speaker for our next program. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. Very good. Thank you.
This will be with the next program we're going to mention would be the DCAA DDPL, which would be Miss Stephanie Mcmanus. Stephanie, are you with us?
Yes, sir. I don't have video, so
Nope.
No camera
Perfect.
on my computer. I'm sorry.
Oh, not a problem. So Stephanie is about to finish the DCAA. Stephanie, can you give us a little bit of your insight and your experience with the program?
Sure. So the DCAA Directors Development Program for Leadership for the Defense Contract Audit Agency. And NAVAC has been given the opportunity to send a few representatives to the DCAA program. So when you go to the program, it's predominantly Defense Contract Audit Agency employees. And then there's a few folks from NAVFAC, a few folks from the Corps of Engineers, and a few folks from a secret facility in DC. And so you will go in and you will be the minority. Right now, I'm actually the only active NAVFAC person in my cadre. And what the program does is it allows you to go to both universities. So they'll have different leadership programs about a week at a time at universities such as Harvard and UNC and Northwestern. And each one of those groups has their professors talk to you about a particular aspect of leadership. As Tom said earlier, one of the executive core qualifications. What is interesting, though, is that it's not a 9 to 5 again. You're not going to a class. You're on a team. You will be working from early in the morning through late at night. You'll often have projects that you work with your team and present them the next day to your group. You will have a different team oftentimes each day, because they'll break the groups up into one group and you'll present something. So for anyone that's maybe done an MBA program, it's sort of like that capstone event with your teams, because you will be working with your team members from the different agencies on different case studies and different ethical situations, different leadership situations at the universities. And that's part of it. And the next part is then you also do weeks at the service academies. So you would be at the Air Force Academy, you would go to the command staff colleges, the Futures Command, as Tom said, the Naval Postgraduate School. We're there for a week. It is an all civilian class. It does come from across a lot of agencies across the Department of Defense. One thing that's really important to recognize is just like Tom had mentioned, your time is not your own. You're traveling on the weekends. You might have classes on the weekends because you're traveling and then you're having a week of class and then you're traveling back. Sometimes the classes are on the weekends. Sometimes they're in the week. You get up very early. With your teams. Oftentimes you're meeting before breakfast so you can present, at 7 in the morning or 8 in the morning, your team. You might be meeting at lunch, you might be meeting at dinner. So one thing that's very important is to make sure you have support back at home. You have someone that can take over your duties and act for you. You have supportive leadership, management, supervisors that allow you that time, because you really don't have a lot of time available at all to check in with your command because you're really working on your teamwork. I think it's been for me a wonderful experience. They call us the COVID cadre because as Rob said, it's taken us a while to graduate because it's been difficult with the different states that have different COVID requirements to get the courses done. Another thing that's been a big benefit for me is paying it forward back to my staff. Oftentimes you learn different things from the universities or the service colleges that you can bring back and share with your own staff. And there's been a lot of times where I've, emailed them a quiz and then we've talked about it in a meeting. And so it's been very good to pay a lot of that forward with my folks. So I think that was important. But again, from a workload and a personal balance, as Rob had said earlier, you need to know your life load as well, because it's a lot of personal time as well as work time. And then the second program I wanted to talk about is the DoD Executive Leadership Development Program. I'm also a graduate of that. That is a class across the DoD that is military and civilian together. I think Tom described the physical aspects. You definitely need to be in shape to be in this course. You do start your day with physical fitness. You will do a lot of the things like the team events. I don't know if you've ever done it where everybody's got to get everybody over a wall and through a tunnel and across a river and all those types of things. You're doing those types of things. You're rappelling, you're shooting, you're doing a lot of the things that we really rarely have an opportunity to do as a civilian. A lot of simulation. We did a boot camp. They will give you exercise clothes. They'll issue that. You'll wear all black. You will participate as units. You will have different teams. Like you might have 1 week where you travel to Colorado and you're on one team and you work this and then they switch you up. So you meet people from across military and civilian from across all the agencies. Again, huge time commitment, huge travel commitment, a lot of your personal time. The same thing went in terms of the case studies and managements through the night. They have at least in my session, they had a 2-week session in Berkeley, West Virginia, where you were underground for 2 weeks and you were basically working with your teams on various case studies and capstone projects. And it literally 15, 18-hour days were not unreasonable. And that was the classroom time. And then you had your physical fitness. And like Tom said, you ate together, you did physical fitness together. So in each case, I would say you really need to make sure you have the time in your personal and professional life and you have the support in your personal and professional lives. Both of them I thought were very rewarding. The DoD Ldp talked a lot more about military strategy, military mission. You got a lot of exposure to that. So if yourself or someone that works for you needs to have a better understanding of really why we're here and what we're supporting, you will walk away from that because you will be doing it. You will be seeing all the services. You will be experiencing challenges that are military experience. And I think it was very rewarding to really go home with yourself and say, I know why I'm here. I know what I'm supporting every day. And like Tom, if anyone has any questions about any of the programs, please feel free to reach out to me. Happy to talk to you, email you, whatever's convenient for you on the programs.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Yeah, some of our DoD DON programs, like the ones that that Stephanie just mentioned, it is to simulate a little bit of what it means to be the tip of the spear. And if you have not had that experience, I definitely urge you to, if you have that opportunity. If you weren't prior military and you not quite connecting the dots and seeing what we do and how it affects maybe somebody who's out there deployed forward out there by themselves, and maybe you don't see and how it connects to you, please definitely consider this. Do I have any questions for Miss Stephanie Mcmanus for either the ELDP or the DCAA DDPL? And again, if you have any questions that we don't get to or touch to here, please let me know and I can facilitate something with Stephanie. Nope. Okay. So we're going to move on to the, again, Stephanie, thank you so much for your time and thank you for sharing. And oh, that was the DCAA. That would be, I'm so sorry. It's got so many D's in it. It's the Defense
Contract Audit Agency.
Audit Agency Director Development Program and Leadership. Good to go, Corey. But again, thank you so much, Stephanie, and I look forward to you closing out your and becoming a graduate. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we have our next speaker, which would be for the ASN RDA Sigma Rotation Program. This is, we have Miss Brooke Brandon. Brooke, are you with us? Brooke, are you? I know, unfortunately, I think she might have had some technical difficulties. I'll call for her. Oh, Brooke.
Hi, this is Brooke. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. I know you have some issues, but as we do, we always adjust fire and move on, right?
That's right. You find a way. So
yes, ma'am.
I'm glad to have the opportunity to share about the program. Thank you so much, Robert, for extending this invite to me. And I definitely want to talk about the program because it was a very rewarding one that you put me in touch with. I didn't know about this program, so I definitely want to sing the praises. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, ma'am. So go ahead. I just wanted to touch base with you for everyone that's on the line. This is specifically for folks that are DWIA coded and they're GS-13s or 14s or the military equivalent of 04 or 05. Okay, go ahead, Brooke.
Yes. So I'm Brooke Brandon. In my day job, I am the Asset Management Branch Head for Public Works Department Oceana, Naval Air Station Oceana in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I'm also known, thanks to my participation in the program, as Sigma number 89. So this is a 2.5-week rotation, an in-person rotation with the Assistant Secretary of the Navy Research, Development, and Acquisition, or RDA office. And so I was at the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia. I had the pleasure of shadowing the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, RDA, Mr. Frederick J. Stephanie. And it was the opportunity also to meet with and have one-on-one meetings with the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Navy, or the DASNs of the different fields like air and ground, ships, policies, and so it was very, very interesting. I also got so as a facilities person, asset management, our ASN line is with energy, installations, and environment. And so Mr. Stephanie also introduced me to Secretary Berger as well. So that it was a brief meeting, but when else will you get the opportunity to meet the people who set the policies and set the cadence for what you do day to day? So that was definitely a great positive for this program. And so Mr. Stephanie, his push he's very invested in the Sigma program. And what he likes to stress is to be an agent of change. And that's why Sigma is part of the title. So the idea is to bring, I believe, Bob, it's GS 13 and 14. Is that correct? I forget. I'm in GS 13, but I don't know if it's GS 12, 13, and 14.
It's 13s and 14s and the military equivalent, which is 04 and 05.
Oh, Roger. Okay. So the idea is to bring 13s and 14s there to get that experience. Some of us are supervisors, some of us are technical SMEs. Very few of us, I'm hearing this in a theme in Ms. Mcmanus and Mr. Barstow's accounts as well. Few of us are NAFAC participants, so I really want to stress that with my program as well. I think I did this program in August to September 2021. It was a 2.5-week program. And at that time, there were 90 Sigmas, including myself. And I want to say that there were definitely less than 5. There might have been 3 of those who were NAFAC participants. And that presented a unique opportunity in the meetings that I would have with Mr. Stephanie or the different DASNs, where their focus as RDA is on ships and weapons platforms. For me, I'm planning projects. We have the design and construction element. So we are the preparation for these platforms, getting the requirements, and then we're the construction of the facilities that support these weapons platforms. So they're not very familiar with our policies. Why does it take so long is a question that I got a lot as a NAFAC person, is why does NAFAC have these processes that take so long? Why can't we just go out and get this building? Why can't we just go out and do this thing? So I would like to encourage anybody who's interested to participate in this, because being able to share, okay, so this is the policy that's based on, here's why the poem is set that way. I think it was helpful for them, and it just, added some clarity, because you can know weapons, but you also have to know the facilities component that goes with it. Even let me not get on the tangent. So Agent of Change is really the push for Mr. Stephanie, and he champions the RDA Sigma program very hard. The idea is to get the full picture of Big Navy, which is a great exposure for us as NAFAC as well. Its history, and also sitting in these different meetings that he has with private industry, with CNO, with his DASNs. Like, you get to really shadow everything that ASN RDA does. There are some things we weren't able to go into because of the sensitivity of the subject matter being discussed. So I don't have top secret clearance, so we weren't able to participate in that. But just being able to get that bird's eye view along with him and listen in on these discussions was really eye-opening for me as asset management, and then taking that awareness of here's how they talk about PSYOP, here's how they talk about aircraft, here's what they value, here's where they're looking to put funding towards. Being able to have that front row seat and then take that back to my team and say, okay, so here's how we need to frame our projects. Here's how we need to advocate for what our installation needs. That was very rewarding. In addition to getting that big Navy picture, he's really, really insightful. I learned a lot just in that 2.5 week time with him and with the other DASNs and other staff. I can't say enough about it. It was also an amazing mentorship and networking opportunity. And that's also another thing I'm seeing that I'm hearing in the other graduate accounts as well. These are really great opportunities that you won't get every day. And then I think I just mentioned, I'm looking at my notes, and not a lot of exposure to our work when it comes to PMA and PEOs. So it was helpful because that's mostly who you'll be around with this program. And then Mr. Stephanie, he's very interested and invested in Navy personnel in professional development. And like I said, the idea is to take, share the wealth, take the knowledge that you bring, and then take the knowledge that you gain from there and bring it back to your team, bring it back to your colleagues. He said, please tell more NAVFAC people about the RDA Sigma program. And so I'm glad to have this time to do it now. There were, of course, great professional opportunities, but I have to share some of the cool moments that I had while I was there as well. I was in the Pentagon. So if you go to do this rotation, you will be in the Pentagon, and it is the best museum for U.S. military that you will ever see. They have these different halls and wings that are dedicated to each branch, as well as I got to take a picture in front of Space Force and the Coast Guard, all the different branches that are there. So that was pretty amazing. I had the opportunity to, as I said, to meet ASN EINE Secretary Meredith Berger. I also got to meet Secretary of the Navy, Mr. Carlos Del Toro, and that was a really great meeting as well. I got to sit in the presidential helicopter when we had an off-site visit to Pax River to discuss a ship platform. It was PSYOP. We got to sit and have a meeting about PSYOP. And so one of the stops after a change of command was to sit in the presidential helicopter. I had that picture framed. So there were some fun moments. It was professional, but there were also some really cool, check off the bucket list opportunities as well. And private industry is also a big push to see where we can do partnerships with private industry. So there were a few meetings with that. And so we got to go to the Amazon offices in DC as well and sit in on those as a Sigma participant. Also, the Sigmas, when you go, there's someone who's wrapping up their Sigma rotation. There's an overlap. So I got to meet and have the Sigma 88, his name is Matt McOmber, got to have him kind of show me the ropes, and then I paid it forward when Sigma 90 arrived and showed him the ropes, and we have like a binder and a whole program that we put together, and everybody tweaks it and adds to, like, creates this framework, creates this binder, recommends different experiences, even recommends different hotels to stay at while TDY. So there's just networking all around. There's collaboration all around. There's also time to just sit and listen. And by sitting and listening to these meetings in these rooms with CNO and the different DASNs and ASNs, it was really very, very rewarding. Okay. Oh, and I would say that this was the right fit for me for one reason. Time-wise, it's a 2.5 week rotation, and being at PWD, if there's anybody out there who's PWD, you know how the pace is at the base. And so my command was very supportive of it, even though, you know, our workload is what it is. I did get to give someone the opportunity to be acting AM branch head, and so that was good for their resume. But, you know, it was just perfect. I wanted to, you know, look at some programs that were 30, 60, 90 days, but workload-wise for me, it wasn't feasible. So this was perfect. It also provided exposure to new areas where, you know, of expertise that I don't really work in as a planning professional. I gather requirements for these weapons platforms, but I got to know them more intimately. The working knowledge was stronger from sitting in these meetings. And I think with any of these programs that are being discussed, you really get out of it what you put into it. So I could have maybe gone to a couple of meetings and just twiddled my thumbs, or I could have said, I want to sit in that meeting. I want to arrange a one-on-one with that person. It really is, you need to be a self-starter for this program, and you won't be sorry. And it was also a travel opportunity. Even though I'm in Virginia Beach and that's DC, it's DC. Who doesn't want to be in DC learning? So I would highly recommend it. And I'm also available for any questions, or if you want to email me about the program, I'm more than happy, as you can probably tell, to talk about it. Over. Back to you, Robert.
Thank you, Brooke. That was a great cover of the Sigma rotation program. Do I have any questions for Ms. Brooke Brandon? And again, with all, as in all speakers, if you have any questions that you think of down the road and you would like me to facilitate, her email, and I'll send you her email and her contact, and you can maybe reach out to her. Any questions? Nope. Okay, so the next DoD-DON program that we have another speaker for, this is for the Defense Civilian Emerging Leader Program, the DCELP. This program is more for probably our journeyman segment of the workforce. It's the it's the DoD equivalent of the Aldp. So this will give you more of an insight of kind of the very similar foundational concepts and competencies that will be enhanced, but it's the DoD equivalent of the Aldp. This is for the GS7 through GS12s. I got Mr. Cameron Stewart from XWIC. Are you on the line with us, sir?
I should be. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I hear you loud and clear. If you can kind of give us a little bit of your experience of the DCELP, and maybe a little bit of any. I think if I recall, you applied multiple times to that program. But
No,
also,
that was someone else you're thinking of.
Oh, my apologies. But he is also the an Ldp graduate as well. So
that is correct.
Go ahead, Cameron.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Yeah, so as Robert said, I went to the Defense Civilian Emerging Leadership Program, which is a DCLP, and it's basically similar to the NAVFAC ALDP, and for those that Rob has identified as journeymen. It's 4 weeks spread across 4 months, and I don't know with COVID if they're in person. I'm sure they went virtual for a while there, but they may be back to in person. I do not know that. I couldn't find that on the website.
It did go to a virtual platform.
All right. Do you know if they've gone back to in person?
That's still in the works, as in a lot of these programs, depending on region and those considerations. But we're slowly seeing, just as to touch on pretty much all the programs, we're slowly seeing a lot of the DoD-DON programs starting to be back in person. However, like the rest of the world, we have pivoted to virtual for most of these programs.
Roger that. So my experience is a bit different than what it currently is. When I went, it was pre-COVID, so it was in person at a facility the DoD has in Massachusetts. But what it should be the same is you have the 4 weeks spread across 4 months, and you're divided into 4 teams for that intake. They do 2 a year. and you're with that team for the entire 4 weeks, but you also will be sharing that week with one of the other teams, and they rotate that through. So you get good networking opportunities both within your team as well as across teams during the whole experience. The 4 weeks, it's similar again to the Ldp. So the first week you get to know yourself more through self-assessments, and there's a 360. The second week is learning how to better express yourself in oral and written communication. The third week, it focuses on building effective teams. And then the fourth week is on how to lead those teams. And in addition to the overall leadership skills that are being built up at the basic level with those, you also get within your team opportunities to be a team leader at differing levels, whether it's a subgroup of the team that you're being the leader, or where you're the overall team leader, or you're the support leader for the overall team leader for that particular week. So definite some good initial leadership opportunities within that as well. Also, while it's not nearly as intense as some of these other programs, which is expected because this is more at the beginning level, it is good if you are able to, for the most part, break away from your regular duties. And since it's only 1 week out of the month, each of the 4 months, that makes it a little bit easier rather than having it all compressed together as 2 weeks or a month, as some of these more advanced programs are. And the reason I say that is because while your day isn't as chock full, you start at about 8 and finish at around 4:30. But my experience, and it seemed to be shared with many of my fellow DCLP members, is that it really came alive more as you're able to get more engaged with your team. And that included doing activities together as a team after the formal classroom training concluded for the day. And those that got more engaged in that manner seem to get more out of it. And that also builds on what I'm sorry, I forget the name of whoever was sharing before me, but she mentioned that what you get out of it, what you put into it, and that is very true. And that's not just for when you're there, but it also holds for when you are out of the program and have moved on. Because if you go through the program and have a great experience, but then you just leave everything that you were learning and practicing in that, then it really hasn't had the effect it's intended to have. Whereas if you really invest yourself into the experience, knowing what you want to get out of it and trying to pull as much as you can out of the experience for your own personal growth and career development, and then making a plan to apply those afterwards and then checking up on that plan, it's really going to be something that will help benefit you in your career. And that applies to whether you stay in a technical role or if you move up into a supervisory role. The things that you learn there are things that can be applied no matter where you are and what position you fill. I think that's a decent overview of it, unless there's any more detail that's that anyone
No,
wants.
do I have any other questions for Mr. Cameron Stewart out of Exwick in regards to the DCELP?
When is
Uh,
the open season? This is Sharon from
It-
NAFAC. And also, what was the other question I had? Just when you say journeyman level, that I know that here at NAFAC, journeyman level, we could have one at wage grade 8. Usually they're 10, but that as long as they're at the top of their journey, their trade, can they apply? Those are my 2 questions.
Okay, so I'm wielding that journeyman level a little bit very, very loosely. It's the segment would be the GS7 through GS12, and then any equivalents, including wage grades.
And I will add to that, unlike with like the Ldp, where you have a GS 1213 non-supervisory and then you have a 1213 supervisory, we had early in career supervisors as well as those who weren't supervisors in the DCLP. It really was just more looking at that range of your wage grade.
Yes, that's correct. One other thing to touch on your other question, Sharon, the open application period for FY23 is 28 March through 27 May. So if you are interested, I believe the link is in the chat, but I'll drop it again. Please take a look at that website, all the applications, all the relevant, the different programs that we've discussed here are available for download. You can download the application, get your package together, and then turn that into your local BD17. This is a supplement brief to your local, so your various commands will be giving out these briefs as well, depending on wherever you're at. So Southwest, your local training rep will most likely be scheduling these a brief for you. So if you're in Southwest, Miss Diane Johnson, you know, Salvation Patain, they'll most likely be scheduling that. Exwick, there'll be Miss Jill Stein, Jill Harrelson. But if you have any questions on who those folks are, I can direct you based off of your command. Just reach out to me and I'll steer you in the right direction. But
Excellent.
did I have?
Thanks.
No, not a problem. Do I have any other questions for Cameron in regards to DCELP? No? Okay. Again, we will be moving on to the next program. That was the last of our DoD-DON programs. Cameron, thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate you sharing your experience. It's always good to hear from folks that have graduated from some of these programs. Cameron's also a graduate of the Ldp. I can't recall the year. I think it was 2018, 2019.
Just before I graduated, just as CO was hitting.
Gotcha. Well, congratulations. Okay, we're going to move on to our Ldp. I have two of our Ldp folks from different levels. I got a Miss Pamela Higa, our level 1. She was a graduate she's a recent graduate. She's from PAC. Pam, are you with us?
Hi, Rob. Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Pam, yes, ma'am. I can hear you loud and clear. And if you can just maybe give us a little bit of your key takeaways, lessons learned from the program, maybe some of the hurdles or your experience, maybe your experience with applying. How has it helped you professionally, personally, and would you recommend this program? Why or why not?
Yeah, of course. It was a great program. Actually, after hearing all of these previous speakers, I don't know if I can follow, but it was yeah. So I was level 1. I'm at NAVFAC Pacific, and it was great. It was not what I was expecting. Of course, I was kind of looking more towards like a Aldp program. I wasn't exactly sure what I was looking more towards for my career. So when I applied for the program, I was really trying to understand NAVFAC and where I fit into NAVFAC. But I was a GS13, and so Aldp didn't fit, as you can see with the requirements. So with level 1, you know, what stood out for me was it was a great experience being able to go on the different rotations, the professional and personal development. It was interesting. What I did not expect was really the personal development that came through. You know, I was really looking more for professional development, but really understanding how much of the self-awareness that's required of a good leader. And so that was really great for me to understand, and what I also kind of look for in a leader that I would follow. So that was great. You know, all the different competency assessments that they have you go through. And then also the training sessions in DC, the Capitol Hill, just the different awareness and exposure that you are accessible to. So, and then also the corporate perspective, you know, you are, LDP becomes also kind of like a key to different things and knowledge that you normally wouldn't have access to. The leadership meetings, the governance boards. This week they're having the leadership board meeting that, you know, not everybody gets to participate to, but you get to be in those meetings and hear what our leadership you know, faces, you know, the different decisions, all the things that our command kind of goes through at the different echelons. And so, and then also interviews with the senior leadership. So what else can I also cover? My advice for the program, definitely prepare for your application. You know, get your support from your supervisor as well, you know, as the previous speakers have talked about at home as well. Although this is not as, I thought it was intense personally, but hearing from what these other programs kind of, there was no physical requirements, but really it is what you put into it. I would kind of compare it to like a graduate level program. It is a lot of self discipline. You know, you get what you put into it. So for myself, it was really I really went out and searched what I was really looking for. So I had a lot of mentors. I had a lot of interviews. I did more than what was required for the rotations. You know, for level 1, you normally do, you know, the internal FM, PWD rotation as well as a supervisory. So I incorporated those all together. However, with the networking, I was fortunate enough to do a rotation at OpNav. And so that was incredible, again, for a level 1 LDP to get access to working for 1 month in the Pentagon, working with our N9, seeing the level of decisions and how it affects us at NAVFAC. That was an experience in itself. So my advice is, you know, don't be afraid. Going in, I was, you know, when you're interviewing SESs and our leadership at headquarters, you know, it's intense, it's intimidating, but they are people. You know, they started off somewhere, and so they are very welcoming, and they're there. They really want to help, and they really want to. This is a leadership program, and so they're there to kind of invest in you as well. So I think that's the best part of this program is that, and that's the reason why I'm kind of here participating as well, is that it kind of developed to me so much that I really want to support it and the people that are interested in this program as well. So if there's any other questions, I think, you know, I'm available to answer, and I'm kind of definitely interested in all these programs that were previously presented now, except for maybe the physical aspects of it.
Well, thank you so much, Pam. I definitely appreciate you, all of our speakers taking the time. I got Peter, you had a question for Pam?
No, I was just going to hopefully set some of our fears aside. Both of those programs that had physical requirements, they were not a test. They were not anything that you had to pass. But it was a personal development process. So they had everything from I'll say not very active people, couch potatoes, to ultra marathon people, and everything in between. And especially at the Naval Senior Leader Seminar, they actually had I don't know what she was, but she's like a certified exercise person that would develop a specific program just for you, and based on that. So please do not get intimidated by anything about the physical fitness. It was definitely multiple levels over.
No, yeah, thank you. That actually, you know, it sounds great. I'm actually definitely interested in it. Knowing myself and how intense I was with just LDP itself, I would definitely need a break after just graduating from this. But yeah, it definitely sounds interesting. So thank you. And thank you, Rob, for just your support in all of these programs. You were definitely a great support in it. So
No, thank you. I do have one other question. I think MD Nurul.
Yes, sir. Do you hear me?
Yes, sir. You have a question?
Okay. Yeah, I do. Though you have explained well about physical requirement, still I do have the question whether we do there is a lot of things required for physical fitness to participate this training.
Oh, was the question, are some of these programs having to have physical fitness? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Yes, it's part of the participation. As Peter kind of mentioned, they have a little bit, some of the programs that were mentioned previously, I believe the ELDP, NSLS, some of those programs require participation. You'll be PTing, you're kind of simulating, at least for the ELDP, the Executive Leadership Development Program, that DoD program, that is kind of giving you, you're going to do kind of like if you had enlisted, and you'll get the tip of the spear type of experience. The DCELP, the LDP level 1, that they do not have any. I don't have for the LDP or for the ALDP, the NAVFAC centric. I don't have folks PTing for me or doing physical fitness prior to it. These are specific the DoD DON programs.
The participants would be staying in hotel, right?
Yes,
But
most of the lodging will be that's associated with the cost of the travel and the per diem for those programs. Yes.
Rob, this is
Okay.
Stephanie about the DoD ELDP. We didn't stay in any hotels for the ELDP because we were on the base lodging, or, depending on the event or the tour. So it was all military lodging. And then for the DCAA, it's probably 2/3 lodging either in the dorm or on the base. And then because of COVID, a few times we were off, but it was very rarely hotel. It was either in a dorm or in military lodging.
Awesome. I appreciate the correction. Thank you so much. MD, did that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right. If I don't have any other questions for Pam, I have the LDP level 2 speaker, and then I will close out, and then we're good to go. So I do have the level 2 speaker. That would be Mr. Tony Lau. I don't know if I know he was having some issues. Tony?
Yeah, I'm here.
Tony, he is a level 2 graduate. I thought it would be important to hear kind of the experience of somebody who had a 2-year program with the LDP. Tony?
Okay, thanks, Rob, and thanks for the support, Rob. I know I bugged Rob a lot during my 2.5 years in the program with cousin COVID visiting. So just some background about myself and where I was and why I decided to apply for LDP. So I entered NAVFAC Hawaii Design and Construction as the civil engineering branch manager after spending 24 years in industry doing consulting work for NAVFAC. After I was finishing my 2 years of probation, once I got done with that, then I decided to pursue this at the pushing from my supervisor. What I was looking for was, I was at the point in my career where I understand NAVFAC from the outside, but I didn't understand the enterprise from the inside. And so I was looking for a quick way to learn about how NAVFAC operated. And that's ultimately why I decided to pursue the level 2 opportunity that LDP offered. And so with the level 2 program, it includes 2 4-week rotations as well as a 1-week shadowing. They encourage you to rotate through business or support lines that are not your own. And so ultimately, I decided to choose my first rotation was at headquarters at the FM group, which was very rewarding. Got to learn how things are funded, how things are billeted, and that sort of thing, and how it eventually, like a better term, trickled down to our FEC level. And got to make a lot of relations with people there, and I still followed up with them after I completed my rotation there with any questions that I had. I also took the opportunity while I was at headquarters to do meet other folks of higher leadership, and I'll get into that a little more further down the road here. My second rotation was planned to be at Parallel Effect at Southwest at the PW group. Cousin COVID got in the way to do a rotation with PW virtually it wasn't very effective. So ultimately, after discussing with my mentors, decided maybe ops would work better. So did a virtual rotation at Southwest at ops for 4 weeks. That was a little bit challenging. Definitely preferred the in-person where you can have those sidebar discussions outside of the Teams meetings. It also helps to be in the same time zone as where you're trying to do a virtual rotation. Because when you're in your own time zone, somehow your regular day job gets in the way. And finally, my 1 week shadowing was at PAC. I decided to do it through the BD office, and so you get a little more exposure to just the general operations of the H3 level. So 3 things of highlights and benefits and things that I got out of my Ldp experience. One was exposure, to the total NAVFAC enterprise. Just getting to meet and deal with folks of business lines or sport lines that I was not familiar with, and I have new contacts, relations that I can reach back to, and I have over the time that since I've completed my program. Number 2 was exposure to leaders, and I got the exposure came through interviews. Did a lot of interviews while I was at headquarters, similar to Tam. I took advantage and did more than I had to. Also interviews at the H3 level. Fortunate that we're relatively close to PAC here, so got to interview various folks at PAC. One of my headquarters rotation was timed well with the leadership board meeting, and where you get exposure to all the uniform leaders as well as all the BDs and other people that attended that meeting. And it was not only just for the information that was presented at the meeting and understanding the issues of concern or where we're going with NAVFAC, but also just watching the leadership styles of the different personalities involved in me. And there were some tense moments at the leadership board meeting, and you got to see how people how people had to react to those things, so how different leaders reacted to some of the pressures that occurred during the meetings. And so those kind of things were great. And then we were fortunate. My class had initial leadership training with retired Rear Admiral Giorgione. And if you've never had a class with Michael Giorgione, it's awesome. I mean, he's such a great leader, and his style of teaching was great. And I learned a lot from him. I always say I have a decent relationship with him today, where I can go to him with any questions that I've had. Have his number, call him, comfortable calling him. And one benefit of the training is, as a Ldp cadre, you have priority at a lot of the local training offerings, and so you get to the front of the line to some of these things that you want to participate in. And then another highlight was the mentoring and the coaching. I took my time to help select the mentor that I wanted. I reached out to a lot of local leaders and ultimately got someone from PAC AM, so someone outside of my business line again, but someone who had a lot of experience with mentoring other cadres in the past. And she was very, very important in my development during the program, and helped guide me. And while I was in DC, I'm asking her who should I interview, and she made a lot of suggestions that of the people that I ultimately end up interviewing, and then even suggesting what kind of questions to ask them, which was very helpful. And when you interview the leaders, it's amazing to find out at least the ones that I interviewed, that asked them, was it your long-term goal to end up where you are at now? And most of them said no. They just kind of were always open to opportunities that were presented to them. And so that kind of had an influence on me, just keeping my mind open, never saying no right away, but not saying yes to opportunities presented to you. And and then again, the great contacts that you make throughout this whole thing. You develop relationships not only with the leaders that you're exposed to, but your fellow cadres. And so that in a nutshell was my experience. I'm glad to hear that you guys are gonna hopefully have the opportunity to travel for your rotations. While you did get a lot of information from the virtual rotations or shadowing, it's just not the same. Really, you need to do it in person and have those sidebar discussions where you can develop relationships. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Awesome, Tony. Thank you so much. And to touch on that, yes, as we move forward through, in regards to COVID and whatever travel restrictions are lifted and various regions are given the green light, we will have more travel for the majority of those programs. And there is something to be said about that experience of that rotations, because a lot of these programs are rotation based. But did anybody have any questions for Mr. Tony Lau, our level 2 graduate? No? Okay. I wanted to take the moment real quick to thank all the speakers that we had today. We went a little bit over time. Thank you all for joining me, and this recording will be posted on the CCRC as well. It'll cover up the FY21 video that we had posted originally, but this will be posted. I will also be conducting an East Coast brief if you guys are interested, or if you'd like to. And additionally, if you have any questions for myself, or you'd like me to facilitate, information from any of our speakers, I'm sure that we can do that. I'm going to close out the recording. Do I have any questions for me or for any of the speakers? I think I saw a hand. Mr. Peter Rodilla.
Rob, Pete Rodilla. I do have a question about the actual packages. Who grades them, and what's the most important part? I know the entire package is important, but who grades them and ranks them and picks the personnel that attend? And what holds the most, I guess, sway? Any idea? Over.
Over. We have a senior leader. There's 2 boards that are convened every year. It's very similar to the Leadership Council. It's been restructured a little bit, but we do have 2 leadership boards based off of level and experience. So for our, depending on the segment, so you have the GS 7 through 12 type programs, our journeyman segment, that'll have the that's considered the mid-level board, and we have a senior level board for all of our senior level folks that are applying. In regards to that, a lot of the major things that are looked at, I believe, are touched on in there's a actual link on the CCRC. Let me open that up for you and share. Let me pull this up for you. Give me 1 second in case anybody, but you can also download this as well. But here, these are the following primary considerations of the selection boards when reviewing their applications: complete and compliant applications, job history, preparation for developmental opportunity, supervisor and command endorsement, the interview, community engagement and involvement, command needs, and education and professional certifications. Leadership development programs support progressive development of leadership competencies while also developing a pipeline. That's just the last verbiage. My apologies. But yeah, those are the primary considerations of each of the selection boards. Those, and it's available on the CCRC. Hopefully that answers your question, Pete. Over.
Yeah, no, excellent. Yeah, I'm one of the people that will provide command endorsements right now. So I was, trying to see. That's great information. Thank you.
100%. Thank you, sir. As I'm sure you know, these selection boards, they get it on paper. It's the commands telling us, telling the board like this is my top guy or this is my top gal. These are my superstars. So definitely when those packages they're usually ranked by each of the local commands and sent to the selection board. They will kind of look at the ranking comes into play as well.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Not a problem, Pete. By the way, Mr. Radilla there is a FY22 selectee for Bridging the Gap. I'm very excited for him. He's one of 3. We had 3 nominations from NAVFAC, and I didn't get a chance. I think I sent you an email, but congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions?